Hello everyone, and welcome to Biopedia. This is essentially a cross between a regular and a bonus episode. It contains all the content of a regular episode, and indeed might be numbered as such, I'm not sure yet. However, it is basically a bonus because it's actually part of a triple feature with two other podcasts I'm involved in. Over on bonus episode 18 of Autocrat, my co-host Cassie and I recently covered the myth of the foundation of Athens. In this myth, Poseidon and Athena try to give gifts to decide whom the city will belong to. Poseidon gives a saltwater spring, however, Athena gifts an olive tree. So, here on Biopedia, we're going to go into the ecological and biological side of olive trees. The plan is that, on After Alexander, we will then explore in broad terms what happened in the city of Athens both before and after the Hellenistic Age. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The olive tree has the scientific name of Olea europaea. According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Red List, the olive tree can be found from the Iberian Peninsula to the Crimea. It's also found on all the major islands of the Mediterranean. However, it is also a species which seems by eye, to me at least, to mainly follow the Mediterranean biome lines which we discussed in a past episode. If I remember, I'll leave a reference to the map which originally showed me the Mediterranean biome lines I'm using to draw this conclusion. Now, the most recent IUCN assessment of O. europaea was in 2010. However, at the time, it was listed as data deficient. This means that, unlike other species, I can't give you a definitive conservation status. There is a species of the same genus which is only found in Madeira in the Atlantic Ocean. This is the species O. madeirensis, or the zambujeiro. Apologies to any Portuguese speakers out there, as I'm sure I just butchered that pronunciation. O. madeirensis is mainly found along the southern coast of Madeira. The species was assessed in 2016 and found to be least concern in terms of its conservation category. This is because, although it has a small range, it's not currently declining. That said, the report notes that a possible threat may be invasive species, notably diseases brought over with garden olive plants. Moreover, the fact that examples from the island of Madeira have been brought over to one of the other islands it exists on, of Porto Santo, could lead to the Porto Santo population's genetic diversity going down. O. madeirensis has previously been threatened by agriculture, and agricultural abandonment has led to a rebound. However, agriculture picking up steam again might pose a problem in the future. The species hybridizing with other species might be an issue, but this doesn't seem very likely because of the differences in chromosome numbers that would be involved. Incidentally, we discussed this problem in the, albeit frivolous context of mythical creatures in a previous episode. O. madeirensis has uses in medicine, and is used at Easter in Christian religious ceremonies. However, the report does not go into detail on what exactly goes on here, and I couldn't find out anything while researching this episode. If anyone knows, as per usual, feel free to drop me a line at the show's email address. These two species are not the only ones. We also get the least concern Australian olive, which is found throughout the east coast of Australia, Southeast Asia, and around the Coral Sea. Its species name is O. paniculata. There are no threats specific to the Australian olive as a species which are known. On the subject of species, at least tangentially related to olives, we also get a bird called an olive tree warbler which is found throughout the East Mediterranean and the eastern part of the African continent. It does live in olive trees, but can also be found in others such as almonds, pistachios, and oaks. There are also Indian and St. Helena olives, but they are of different genera to the European olive. Now, let's talk reproduction and longevity for a bit. Elevated temperatures and humidity affect the longevity of O. europaea pollen and how viable it is. This is according to an Italian study of 12 cultivars at 3 temperature treatments and 2 humidity treatments for 5 days. When high humidity and temperature were combined, pollen viability decreased. By the way, high humidity here refers to 100%. However, when 50% humidity was used, pollen temperature tolerance was not impacted. As a final note for today, olive trees can live to be hundreds and indeed thousands of years old. This means, interestingly enough, that something from myth and legend is at least somewhat backed up, at least in theory. Episode 18 of Autocrat is meant to take place in the 16th century BCE according to the chronology of the mythology from the Parian Stela. A tree planted in that mythical time is supposed to have survived to the 2nd century CE. If the chronology presented in that episode is accurate, this would make this tree just shy of 2,000 years old. The longevity of olive trees doesn't mean that this is proven or anything close to it, but it would actually be plausible for a tree to live that long. That brings us to the end of today's episode. As always, thank you all for listening. Feel free to get in touch with the show's email address if you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions for future episodes. Until next time, have a great week, everyone.